Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate will vote on a scaled-back coronavirus relief bill as soon as this week, but Democrats are already dismissing it, saying it falls too short.
The Republican skinny bill is less than a skinny bill. As Chuck Schumer and I have said, it's an emaciated bill.
Yep, no stimulus checks included in the GOP's version of this initial bill. McConnell has stalled for months since May in order to buy time, tread water, so he can screw over working people again and enrich corporations.
It's a $300 billion bill, which is much smaller than, remember, the $1 trillion bill that Republicans in the Senate introduced in July. And it's way smaller than the $3.4 trillion bill that Democrats passed in the House in May. And that's where those negotiations are stuck. So what the Senate Republican bill actually does, well, it provides unemployment insurance, an additional $300 a week federal benefit, which of course is smaller than the $600 a week. It is big on Majority Leader McConnell's big priority, which is liability protections for businesses who are operating in COVID. It also provides grants and tax credits for private schools, kids that go to private school and homeschool.
Money for private schools and liability protections for corporations so they can't get sued by their employees if they have inadequate coronavirus protections. You know, backing up the people who need it most. So this is what he's been waiting to unveil and coalesce behind with the Republican caucus in the Senate for months now. The HEROES Act passed in the House in May, and McConnell took months to even take it up for negotiations in the Senate. He was just doing nothing and sitting on it. Now, to be clear on this version of the bill, this is not going to pass. He's not going to get the 60 votes necessary for the second coronavirus stimulus. Hopefully, the Democrats can negotiate a second $1,200 payment, which I think is crucial to stimulating the economy, right? If he really cared about stimulating the economy, he would back a UBI, do what Canada has done, or do what Germany has done, where at the beginning of the pandemic, they wage replaced around 70% of people's wages if they made under a certain amount. And so they were basically just furloughed, and then the government would subsidize a significant portion of what they were paid. And it saved their economy from complete obliteration in the way that we faced it. But McConnell's not interested in saving the economy. He's certainly not interested in balancing the budget. He's interested in paying back his donors and giving as much taxpayer money as possible to corporations and rich people. I mean, it's naked. It's obvious. So this bill is setting a benchmark for future negotiations with Democrats. Pelosi was upset by this bill, understandable. I think the Democrats should not budge on the $1,200 stimulus payment for nothing else except for the fact that, did I say that right? Who cares? You know what I mean. It's popular. Americans want a second stimulus check because they've seen, some people at least, other countries have had UBI payments, and they understand that the economy is only going to get better when people have money to spend, not just giving billions of dollars to corporations so that they can set up stock buybacks for their CEOs. Republicans struggling to retain their Senate majority this fall have been divided, with some GOP senators in close races anxious to respond further to the pandemic, even as conservatives are tiring of all the spending and passing legislation in concert with liberal House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. McConnell's bill would provide $105 billion to help schools reopen, enact a shield against lawsuits for businesses and others that are powering ahead to reopen, create a scaled-back $300 per week supplemental jobless benefit, it was $600 before, and write off $10 billion in earlier debt at the U.S. Postal Service. There's $31 billion for a coronavirus vaccine, $16 billion for virus testing, and $15 billion to help childcare providers reopen. It's all about reopening. There is additionally $20 billion for farmers. The package will also include a school choice initiative sought by Texas GOP Senator Ted Cruz and others that would provide a tax break for 2 years for people who donate to nonprofit organizations offering private school scholarships. It would also provide for a $258 billion second round of Paycheck protection subsidies, but it won't contain another round of $1,200 direct payments going out under President Donald Trump's name, and the new $300 weekly jobless benefit would expire just after Christmas on December 27th. The GOP bill also lacks funding for election security that lawmakers from both parties have supported. At least one Republican, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, said Tuesday he would oppose the bill, refusing new spending that piles on debt. It's a sign of the troubles McConnell has faced in crafting a bill his own party would support. Pelosi continues to demand a package totaling $2.2 trillion, and while Trump's negotiators have signaled a willingness to inch further in her direction, a significant gap remains. So this bill is really outrageous there. So, one, they want to refill the coffers of the PPP loans that were completely abused by multinational corporations and weren't going to small businesses. They want to extend the unemployment and cut it in half, so it's $300 a week, not $600, and it would expire right after the election. So really well done there. And then, of course, no election protections, even as they try to gut the U.S. Postal Service, making sure that there can still be some wiggle room to say, oh, it was a fraudulent election, which is as gross as anything. And of course, the push to reopen schools. And what they're doing here, which is extremely gross, is they are using the pandemic and the chaos that it's created with schooling, which they've helped create, to push money towards charter schools, for-profit schools, and away from public schools. That's what that Ted Cruz provision does there. It's really amazing that they have the gall to do something like this when Donald Trump's approval is so low, and most indicators show that the country is not behind him. But they're going to gut everything while they can. It doesn't matter what the public thinks. That's always been their MO. So Democrats have their work cut out for them, because if this is where Republicans are starting on negotiations, not even including a second stimulus check, God, I don't envy the Democrats negotiating with these sociopaths. And they've been really bad at it in the past, the Democrats. Let's hope that with the election coming up, they see the incentive to fight for working people and middle-class people, and hopefully that will embolden them to be strong at least a little bit.